look, just going to say it right off the bat. There's a reason that we're all together, just the three of us. For over a year now, we've given you our opinions about the world, about politics, about media, about culture. And the entire time we thought we were unimpeachably right. But we have come across someone that's changed our perspective. It's fair to say. Yeah.
Very true. I'd like to start by introducing a new character to the Chapo canon that, I came across this morning. Well, I've known about him for a while, but he was really distinguishing himself this morning, so I want to talk about him. And then our new character is the Dark Professor. Of course, I'm talking about Toronto-based psychologist Jordan B. Peterson.
You might say that someone who is incapable of cruelty is a higher moral being than someone who is capable of cruelty. And I would say, and this follows Jung as well, that that's incorrect, and it's dangerously incorrect, because if you are not capable of cruelty, you are absolutely a victim to anyone who is. And so part of the reason that people go watch anti-heroes and villains is because there's a part of them crying out for the incorporation of the monster within them, which is what gives them strength of character and self-respect, because it's impossible to respect yourself until you grow teeth.
Yes, my influences are, sorry to overload you with my influences, but they include Immanuel Kant, Viktor Frankl, Darkwing Duck, and Louis Armstrong. I think to myself, what a logical world. I see ads of hominem ad absurdum too. Just because someone posts a swastika doesn't mean that they hate Jews.
Wow. Making fun of his Kermit the Frog from Ontario voice. Very, very logical. You're definitely responding to his arguments that way. You're not proving him right at all.
People who are mean in the comments are doing you a favor. They're telling you everything about them or nothing about you.
So, Jordan Peterson, he's a guy who basically, he got internet famous and became the professor of the alt-right and logic pedants online because he refused to comply with the University of Toronto's pronoun policy. That's basically
he's
right?
the Rosa Parks of pronouns, basically.
Yeah, he would not refer to people by their preferred pronouns, only by the gender they were born or something like that. And then he gave a series of I don't know. He's he's like one of these philosophy logic nerds that have now found an audience with incel shut-in Pepe guys. I think Peterson is sort of an interesting character. I think he's funny because he is so intensely self-serious. And I tried to watch a video of him being interviewed by Dave Rubin, and obviously,
and your browser was like, "Warning: IQ is too high. Collective IQ of this video is too high."
I tried watching it, and then I was skipping around because it was so fucking boring. But the one segment of it I watched, Jordan Peterson was telling Dave that Frozen is not as good a movie as Beauty and the Beast because it has politics, and that nobody will be watching Frozen in 30 years, unlike Beauty and the Beast, which is a timeless classic.
Today, young men are taught to take all the negative aspects of the Beast. They are locked away in their mansion and berated with messages, but they don't have any of the benefits of his life. They don't have a candle that they can sing songs with.
I just like I said, he's been sort of a character on my radar for a while that seemed like he'd be a ripe for an amusing discussion on the show. But this morning when I woke up, he had really distinguished himself because he's now sort of taking up the cause of James Damore, that fucking freak-faced grotesque.
That absolute dipshit.
And his lawsuit against Google for discriminating against him for being a white man and having logical beliefs.
Yeah, he's Mr. Too Damn Logical, and they had to fire him.
Yeah,
he's just a poster boy for the Dunning-Kruger effect. This guy, he's amazing. He had a tweet after he got web famous for his Evo Psych Google memo that got him fired, where he says, "Like a bird, a country needs two wings, a right and a left wing. If one is too powerful, then it becomes unbalanced and it can't fly.
Well, that's
and like, dude, you know that is a figure of speech, right? I mean, that's such a basic logical error that it kind of calls into question his entire claim to being the king of logic.
gonna call you on that one. Countries are exactly like birds. Birds are immortal, issue their own currency, represent millions of people. And yeah, no, I mean, whenever you start, hey, the word for word thing was society is like a bird. And it's you start out that strong. I'm with you.
Yeah.
So he was going to bat for James Damore, and the sort of this he proposed an experiment for people to do, and I'm just going to read from him right now. Peterson says, "Google image search bikini, then do the same with Bing." And then think hard about Google's desire to shape our perceptions themselves in the politically correct manner regarding James Damore and his lawsuit. And it's just like...
What?
So okay, so then people did the search on Google and Bing and basically both return, as you might expect, images of women in bikinis. And like, from as best I can tell, if I can intuit sort of what he's trying to say is that the Google results maybe showed women who were of a, not, sort of plus size.
I saw one person do it, and the only difference was there were a couple of pictures of Ashley Graham, who is a quote-unquote plus size swimsuit model, who has been on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, I mean, she's hot.
And, as a very forward-thinking man, like, yeah, maybe I will fuck a woman without exposed hip bones.
That's
but I'm a pro Google SJW.
I thought it,
yeah, but you're a soy boy though. That's why.
I'm virtue busting.
Or is it like Google was showing more like non-white women or something like that in the
That's
results?
not true. I didn't see that. I think it's really just that there are a few shots of Ashley Graham in the Google one. That was the
but
difference.
other than that, the results are pretty much
just,
identical.
Yeah, it's women in bikinis.
So then people started pointing this out, and then like people started replying to the people who were like, I don't get what these two image searches are supposed to prove about how we're being sort of nudged by Google's politically correct algorithm or something. And then like the people who were, I guess, fans of Peterson or like defending this position were like, okay, Google European painting, and then Google, and then or like American inventor, and you'll see what we're talking about. And then what happens is you Google those specific terms. Like if you European painting, you'll see a lot of results of like the same one or two paintings of like a portrait of like a Moorish person or something like that. And then like American inventor, you'll just see a lot of like black inventors. Aha! But then if you actually like click through to like why the results are coming up, you'll see that the reason that these are the top results is because like it's all the results specifically of alt-right people searching this term and getting angry, and they all link back to their own blogs and fucking things about how European painting is now means black people or something like that.
Wow, not since Benny Johnson. It's amazing how these people keep getting owned by predictive algorithms that are all tied into their own fucking searching.
I want to put a little flag in this. Jordan Peterson first came across this because he was Google image searching bikini. Yeah. Like that's how he jacks off. He's like, all right, it's been a long, hard day of logic. Why don't I, you know what, Jordan, you've earned yourself a reward. How about a woman in her bra? I think that, you know what? No, you've deserved bikini. Like he jacks off like me when I was like 9 and I couldn't come yet. And I was just like, oh, how do I see boobs?
Oh, wait, sorry. This is it. Jordan Peterson followed it up and he said, just how exactly is this done? Image search Google European people art. You know that well-known phrase that is used to describe
totally
art.
Normal.
And then when you get European people art, all you get is a bunch of alt-right memes about Donald Trump and black people.
And he's like, "This is very interesting. What's being done to our perceptions?"
I don't know. Anybody who says that he's the king dick of logic and thinks that a company like Google gives a shit about anything other than making fucking money is just full of absolute baloney, my friend.
Yeah, I love the idea of these soulless androids at Google and the Google Playpen mega dome, wherever they work, like in their personalized ball pits inside their cubicles, are like, all right, today we're going to fool people into jacking off into WOC, and we're every time they look for that classic term that everyone searches for, art by haplogroup, we're actually going to show them Hotep art of Jesus being black and say it's from the Renaissance, and then that way, like, what do they accomplish?
Yeah.
What's the meaning of that?
Yeah, these guys who go around their offices in like a giant hamster ball with a 12-hour Soylent suppository, and like every couple hours they get a teenager's blood infused into their dicks. They really care about people jacking off to a plus size model.
Well, what's interesting about this is that like for both types of right wingers, they have to believe that STEM lords are just the most brilliant people alive. And if you're like a Rubio Republican or or more libertarian twinged, you're like, oh, they're going to save the economy. They're literally going to fix all the problems. They shouldn't be taxed at all. We should give them every visa program for foreign slave labor to fix everything. This is the most exciting thing. Nothing is overvalued. But if you're like more alt-righty, it's like, no, yeah, they are amazing, but they're using it to ruin the world by making me jack off to a woman with dreads, I guess.
Yeah, it's once again, it's over and over. You see the phenomenon of people being alienated rightly from these massively powerful and totally unaccountable corporate entities, but then just losing the thread and then like allowing sort of pre-existing like their own pre-existing resentments to sort of shape their analysis of what's wrong with the company.
Well, it's like how Birchers were against the Vietnam War, not because it was a stupid and brutal and thuggish entanglement, but because they're like, oh no, we should just nuke all of East Asia. That's what I've always thought.
Here's an interesting question, though, at least as regards like the James Damore lawsuit. And, we all know what we think of him. I mean, if
Genius.
If your face looks like that, you shouldn't have Google could fire him based on that alone.
Yeah, because he should be camming with that bod.
No, but so the obvious hypocrisy here is that like when these logic nerds come face to face with like the running into the thresher of like real corporate power, then they all get like up in arms about like, oh, my freedom of speech, even though that like usually 9 times out of 10 their political ideology tends to afford corporations the power to
their whole
pretty
premise is that they, as an owner of a company, should have complete control over what happens within it, including who's employed and why.
However, the flip side to that though is us, cheering Google for firing a employee for sharing his personal thoughts on a company email or something like that. And it's like, the line here is, I don't know. I mean, it's a difficult question to answer because on the one side you can say, yeah, like it's Twitter's right to ban Nazis or people who threaten people with death or whatnot, so on and so forth. And then like when people get banned, the rejoinder is obviously, well, you signed the terms of service, and Twitter's a private company; they can do what they want. However, the internet is now such that like 3 or 4 corporations basically do control all speech on the internet.
Yeah.
And should they be treated like a public good? Should they just be nationalized?
Right.
And if they are nationalized, then anything that would happen would be subject to strict first. Nathan Robinson wrote a piece about this today that I thought was very good. And it is hard to say like where that line should be drawn between public and private, because it's, let's say if you were effectively banned from Facebook, Google, Twitter, Apple, or like I said, these 3 companies, then your speech has been diminished.
Yes.
And your ability to participate in the public sphere is being abridged by private companies, right?
Yeah.
So is that a First Amendment issue?
I absolutely think it is, and I think that I do think it's funny that these guys who preach social Darwinism and a totally unregulated economy think yes, but the internet should be a public good because I got banned from fucking Twitter, because that's how they think. They think in these they think only about how things affect them personally. So the only companies that could possibly infringe upon their rights, even though that's not supposed to happen, even though private companies are supposed to be the guarantors of freedom, the only way that the only ones that are bad for me. It's not, it's only the ones that personally fucked with me. It's the only one that made me not be able to post my Goiper memes on fucking Twitter. And it's another example of how, like, it's an easy hypocrisy to point out on either side. The people who laugh at Google doing this, the people who are outraged. But the way to resolve that contradiction is, yes, through taking that logic of nationalizing and extending it outward into all of these companies that have the power to completely fuck people over and are unaccountable, and injecting accountability into it through a public ownership.
By the way, I was if you Google image search like an actual term like 19th century European art or anything specific, like you will of course get the results that these people would be thinking of. It's just like, yeah, if you search the incredibly awkward,
these
bizarre
freaks
phrase,
use in their awful memes and blog posts.
Yeah, then you will find those results, right?
Yeah.
And I love the thought of Jordan Peterson being like,
I was using my computer every time I searched Kierkegaard because I care about Western civilization and philosophy in my research. As soon as I type K, the first letter that I'm sent to something called kink.com, and I just can't stop looking at it. It's just the postmodern degeneracy. There's no bounds.
I don't have time for divine bitches. I'm trying to find out about Fear and Loathing. As I've been writing more, I've been, looking into the craft of writing, because I think that every time, everyone should learn a new thing from time to time. I think the only way we grow is by learning new things. So I was looking up the term pregnant pause, but the sort of thing that I was bombarded with in the autocomplete, it said pregnant Naruto. First of all, it's impossible for him to get pregnant. Second of all, I don't care what pronouns he uses. He's a man. He doesn't have a uterus. Third of all, Sasaki wouldn't get him pregnant. If Naruto was pregnant and he tried to do the Naruto run where his belly is sort of dragging on the ground because of his pregnancy, well, he would be giving that baby an abortion with the ninja run. But maybe that's what these people want. Do you see how they condition us for this thing?
So, like I said, I went down a bit of a Jordan Peterson. I went in Jordan Peterson's hole today.
You went in his b-hole.
Yeah, in the
Like
b-hole.
Han Solo.
Yeah. And someone pointed out this meeting that not too long ago. I mean, this is of note to our show. I mean, we are founders of the Jared Fogle Innocence Project. Would it shock you to learn that Jordan B. Peterson is now Sandusky Innocent Curious?
Yes. Hell yes.
Hell yes.
John Ziegler is like, welcome to the fucking resistance,
That's
friend.
the real resistance.
Yes.
And then, so he was... yesterday he was retweeting someone who was... Like if you just like keep opening these quote tweets, they get weirder and weirder. And it starts with Peterson going, God, could this be true? The repressed, recovered memory industry is an ethical morass, which is true.
Yeah, but that's not what convicted Jerry Sandusky.
Yes, exactly.
Jordan Peterson,
the assistant coach literally walked in on him fucking a boy.
Yes.
He literally thinks that they just grabbed like 30 adults and like got Bela Lugosi to dangle a pocket watch in front of them. You're remembering what Jerry Sandusky did.
And okay, so Jordan Peterson there is quote tweeting someone named Diana Davison, who says, Mark Pendergrass is the journalist really breaking the story on this wrongful conviction of Jerry Sandusky. And it links to something called thecrimereport.org. And then she's quoting another person named Dr. Oren Amate, who goes, holy shite. Although I strongly disagree with some of Cruz's statements, interpretations, and claims, especially regarding the Holocaust, his piece on hashtag Jerry Sandusky is a must read, and it's in Skeptic magazine.
Oh,
Can you count to 6 million accusers of Jerry Sandusky?
Sorry, back to Peterson. I just Matt, as one of the conditions for your losing losing the poop touching bet, the Roy Moore bet, I said I was going to punish you, physically and mentally. You've done the physical test, touching the cat poop. Now I'll put you through the mental test.
Yes.
And I just want to put the marker down for all the listeners. I have ordered you a copy of Jordan Peterson's book that is now It is not out. It is not out yet. It's coming out on the 23rd, but I have pre-ordered you a copy, and I feel a little bad for juicing this fucking nitwit's book sales, but I think it's in service of a good cause.
We might find out that he's actually the logic genius that he claims to be.
Well, so
I've got an open mind.
Here's a preview. Peterson is sort of he heretofore has been written like very academic books about like religion and mythology and things like that, but he's cashing in on his newfound like internet success, being a kind of the sort of the dad for the alt-right, for a lot of sad Pepe online guys, and he's got his book is called 12 Rules for Life, an Antidote to Chaos. And I just want to read a little bit from the sales copy here. And he says here, humorous, surprising, and informative. Dr. Peterson tells us why skateboarding boys and girls must be left alone. What terrible fate awaits those who criticize too easily, and why you should always pet a cat when you meet one on the street. So right off the bat, I got to say I agree with 2 out of those 3 things. Skateboarding boys and girls should be left alone. If I presumably he means by mall security or just people shaking their fists at them, terrible, criticizing people too easily. I mean, that's our bread and butter. I don't like to imagine a terrible fate awaits us.
Well, also that's the thing of like, well, what does that mean too easily? I mean, come on. Obviously, it's a meaningless phrase because you haven't defined the term.
And why you should always pet a cat when you meet one on the street, folks? How about you pick it up and bring it inside your apartment and live with it? That's what I believe in.
That's a good recipe for feline AIDS.
I'm a living testament to Jordan Peterson's beliefs, okay? So it goes on, he says, what does the nervous system of the lowly lobster have to tell us about standing up straight with our shoulders back and about success in life? Why did ancient Egyptians worship the capacity to pay careful attention as the highest of gods? What dreadful paths do people who tread when they become resentful, arrogant, and vengeful? Dr. Peterson journeys broadly, discussing discipline, freedom, adventure, and responsibility, distilling the world's wisdom into 12 practical and profound rules for life. 12 Rules for Life shatters the modern commonplaces of science, faith, and human nature while transforming and ennobling the mind and spirit of its readers.
Shattering all of your preconceived notions by telling you to stand up straight.
Yeah, so I'm going to guess that this is kind of like an NRX life hacker type thing. It's like...
and then like I was...
SJW Media will tell you to walk in the style of the Virgin.
Young men are not anymore taught that they have to wipe all the feces encrusted out of their asshole, and they walk around all day with doo-doo ass. And it's not just that it's wet. When it's dry, it itches. You get diseases. You get a rash. And then someone goes up to you and blames you for racism. I don't want people to have doo-doo ass.
Before we move on from the Dark Professor, can we just play a clip of him where he's like crying and shit on stage?
Of course we can.
Where he just because
We've been doing the voice, and I don't think you guys are really getting the full effect until you hear from the Dark Knight himself.
You know, I'm sorry that we've been talking like this the whole time, and you haven't even gotten a chance to hear him. And it makes me think of all the people who will never hear his voice. And it makes me very emotional. Even real ones cry.
I've gone around and spoken, and a large proportion of my audience has been young men, under 30, something like that. And I've spoken to them a lot about responsibility. And what's so odd about this is that of all the things that I've spoken about, because I can see the audience and I can feel how the audience is reacting, because I'm always paying attention to all of you insofar as I can manage that. So I get some sense of how what I'm saying is landing, which you have to do if you're going to speak effectively to people. And what happens is if I talk about responsibilities, everyone is silent, just like they are now. Silent and not moving, right? Focusing, attentive. Say, pick up your responsibility. Pick up the heaviest thing you can and carry it. And the room goes quiet and everybody's eyes open. And I think, that always makes me break up.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you for your service.
By the way, the sort of playlist that YouTube, another algorithm that's nudging us in a politically correct direction. When you search Jordan Peterson, I'm just browsing some of the Jordan Peterson videos on offer. Jordan Peterson on the meaning of life for men. Must watch. Jordan Peterson, don't be the nice guy. Jordan Peterson, handling your darkest feelings. Jordan Peterson, is life worth the suffering? And finally, Jordan Peterson, advice for hyper-intellectual people.
Settle down, dorks.
Oh man! So yeah, look forward to our coming review of the 12 Rules for Living. We'll let you know what all 12 of them are. Not
Cannot
just
wait.
Standing up straight. By the way, Matt, it is like 500 pages.
Oh,
so.
fuck me.
Gotcha,
Damn it.
bitch.